about the live thing, Gaz. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Footy Fan Zone. We are here for another weekly live stream as addressed on the short. Last week, obviously, a couple of days ago, we delayed this show until Thursday instead of Tuesday, but we'll be back for next week on Tuesday, hopefully. But due to other personal commitments and stuff like that. Obviously, we went to go and watch Lincoln play in League One against Barnsley. I'm just going to be sort of focusing on other content and make sure we go to games. But we could not miss on with the Footy Fan Zone stream and the two best co-presenters and co-creators of this show, and also I can find is back. Gary, West Ham fan. Gary, how are we, mate?
I'm very good. How about yourself?
Yeah, very, very well. Thank you very much once again for joining me. And of course, Elliot, Arsenal fan. Elliot, how are we, mate?
All good, mate. Ready to go again?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can see that me and Elliot have got different backgrounds. Currently at university, so we keep sort of but this will be the background for a few more weeks. But of course, obviously during the summer and stuff like that, it will be a bit of swapping and changing. But Gary's staying in neutral places. But of course, the content's still going to be the same. We've got so much to get into with this week. So let's get started with this week's Footy Fan Zone as we start off today with the Europa League and Europa Conference League games. Of course, we had the Champions League last night. We've now got the semi-finalist, which will see current holders Real Madrid take on Premier League champions Manchester City. And of course, it'll be a Milan derby in Italy with Inter Milan taking on AC Milan. But of course, Europa League and Conference League is going on tonight. You'll get this clip just before the games do start. So make sure you guys can sort of check out our early predictions and see how potentially right or wrong we were. But obviously, we're going to be focusing on the Premier League clubs, and obviously Manchester United there against Seville. The first leg saw a 2-2 draw. Seville, they'll play in Seville this evening, and then of course West Ham will be hosting Genk in the quarterfinals of the Europa Conference League, the only English team left in there. And of course, we're going to start with the Conference League. Gary, of course, watching the game, of course, that was also a draw in that first leg in Genk, and it's a massively important game. Gary was speaking before the stream, just in the casual football conversations as we do, about the importance of this game for so many reasons, and I think it's right what you were saying off stream. So if you could say it on stream for the fans, that'd be muchly appreciated.
Yeah, obviously, I think it's going to be a massive game. If we win, it's going to be a huge confidence boost in our fight to stay up. We're obviously, admittedly, Kieran said he doesn't think West Ham are in a relegation battle at the moment. I still think we are, due to how concerning we can be. I think there's points where we can look absolutely fantastic, as proven against Arsenal, as you'll find out later. But then there's times where we can be absolutely shocking and be rubbish at defending and seriously just switch off. Obviously, the reason why I say I think we need to win this as well is confidence for the fans. Obviously, like myself, this season's been a bit shaky and a bit up and down, as Elliot and Kieran has seen from last week, and Kieran seeing for the last 4 years that he's known me. He's seen me
4 long years. 4 long years, yes.
He's obviously seen the first time we got into the Europa League run, how happy I was with that, and how upset I was when we got knocked out by Frankfurt. And then obviously this run, and it just seems like we've switched off. All right, yes, we're still undefeated in Europe, but it still questions me. Can we physically actually keep that 100% record of being undefeated? But yeah, that's all I can really say.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously the draw happening last week. Did you see signs of West Ham potentially enter the semi-finals of this tournament based on the way that obviously Genk played. Obviously, I think a home fixture for a second leg is massively positive in any sort of example, especially when you got something to fight for. Did you see concerning signs, particularly of how strong Genk was?
Yeah, Genk were very strong, and I think as well it got to the point where Genk were all over us, and obviously, like you said, with the home field advantage in the second leg, we proved it against Sevilla when the stadium was actually rocking in that game, and obviously me and Kieran was FaceTiming each other as Yarmolenko scored that goal to take us through to the quarterfinals. And I think that's what we need tonight. I think we need that stadium rocking and that crowd to be loud and pumping and give the adrenaline to the players that they need.
Well, we spoke about obviously West Ham, having a massive advantage of playing that second leg at home. If I move over to the other Europa League competition and speak to Elliot regarding Manchester United, because they played last week at Old Trafford. A lot of people, including myself, would agree that they threw away a 2-goal lead, brought Seville back into the game with a really, really strong second half performance from the Spanish side. But Seville, one of the worst teams, as stated last week's show regarding home fixtures in La Liga. Is that a massive confidence boost for Manchester United, knowing that they're going away to a team so poorly in that second leg, with, of course, something to fight for? What are your thoughts on Manchester United Seville tonight, Elliot?
Yeah, you'd want to back Man United, wouldn't you? Because of a huge win at the weekend that we're going to get to later on. And big club like Man United, you back yourself against most teams, don't you? But yeah, I think it doesn't matter if they're home or away. I still do think they'll be too strong for Sevilla tonight, with the likes of Bruno Fernandes and Ericsson and stuff like that. So yeah, I think they have a good chance of winning.
Yeah, well, Rashford obviously set to return for that, obviously being 5-4. But if you look at the remaining teams within this competition, Manchester United, of course, has to be, one of the favourites. Obviously Juventus or Sporting that could play in the next round, and Roma on the other side as well with Bayer Leverkusen. So, every single game seems to have a very, very strong team within it. Manchester United already winning the League Cup this season after beating Newcastle. Could this be added silverware and showing the fans that there are progression at the club?
Yeah, I think there are very good signs of progression, because obviously, like you said, the trophy win and Ten Hag, since he's come in, has completely changed the Man United team. But yeah, I think they have a very good chance to win the Europa League. For me, personally, they're my favourites.
There you go. So if we stick with Elliot for the score prediction between Manchester United and Seville tonight, you could do either the score on the day or aggregate as well, or both if you want to challenge yourself as well with that. Challenge your math skills. So what are we saying for Man United Seville?
I reckon it'll be comfortable 2-0 tonight. 2-0 Man United.
There we go. So a 4-2 on aggregate. And obviously then if we turn our focus back on to the Conference League with Genk versus West Ham, 1-1 aggregate score. What's going to be added to that, Gaz, in that game, mate?
It's going to be a 2-1 win West Ham, which make it 3-2 on aggregate. Good
math skills there, very good, guys. But there you see Europa Conference League, of course, back in West Ham United in that Conference League, and then Seville in the other Europa League game. For that one, don't want to see Man United win any more silverware this season, but there they are, Europa League, Europa Conference League, our thoughts and predictions on tonight's games. So let's move into obviously the previous weekend Premier League results. There you can see there on there. Thank you very much to Sky Sports website for providing us with the scores. They're obviously using their graphic there. Big results, of course, starting off with Saturday. Aston Villa beating Newcastle by 3-0. Chelsea, once again, another defeat against Brighton and Hove Albion. Everton go into further trouble with a 3-1 defeat at home to Fulham. Southampton, rock bottom of the league, could not beat Roy Hodgson's informed Crystal Palace as they won 2-0. Spurs losing once more to a lower league team in Bournemouth with 3-2. Wolves beating Brentford by 2-0, by 2-0. Manchester City, Haaland spectacular, and then a 100th Premier League assist for Manchester City and Kevin De Bruyne saw them beat Leicester City 3-1. Sunday's games, of course, we covered it on the weekly live stream. West Ham coming back from 2 goals down, stop smiling, to beat Arsenal 2-2. And then Manchester United beating Forest in the later game by 2-0. Saw Diego Dallo score his first goal for the club. And then on Monday night saw the Liverpool win by 6-1 against struggling Leeds. That's the second time that Leeds United have lost in back-to-back weekends by 5 goals or more. So let's get into the big topics, of course, and let's start off with that big London derby between West Ham and Arsenal. Covered it on the live stream, of course, which you can check out now. But Gary, I mean, you were a roller coaster of emotions in that game. And obviously going into tonight's game, you've got to feel like the players have got some sort of confidence after beating the league leaders. But is that a point that you were not expecting and also very, very happy to take?
Yeah, a point I wasn't expecting at all. I continuously said that Arsenal would beat us, and the first 10 minutes proved me correct. We would just pour 2 easy goals that really we shouldn't be given in Premier League football. But the penalty, Benrahma easily slotted it past Ramsdale, and then Jared Bowen's excellent finish to put us 2-2.
Oh, there we go. I mean, obviously, a vital point for West Ham, but it's once again Arsenal dropping another 2 points in that game, and obviously in the race for the title, which we will be speaking about later on in the show. But a sign of potential overconfidence, potentially, from Arsenal in that game. Elliot, a lot of people have criticised the lack of composure from Arsenal in the last 2 games and the inability to round off games and stuff like that. Is that a criticism as an Arsenal fan you're looking at particularly with worrying eyes? Because at the end of the day, that is concerning going into the business end of the season.
Yeah, you've always got to be a bit wary of going from 2-0 to 2-2 2 games in a row and throwing away 2 games that we should have won. But yeah, first half in both games, we were the better team. Second half, we dropped off. What I think is I think we're getting too ahead of ourselves. We think, right, we got these 2 goals. Now we need the goal difference, send everyone forward and not have enough people back, and we get caught because of it.
Yeah. I think I was massively surprised at Arsenal's performance at the weekend, I will admit. Just, the first half an hour was dominant. It was dominant against Liverpool, 2-0 up at Anfield. And I think what struck me more than anything is that we sat on this show last week and we spoke about Arsenal's performance against Liverpool, and the massive excuse was it's against Anfield. When Liverpool do turn up at Anfield and stuff like that. And I sat here, saying that, Liverpool were unlucky not to win the game. West Ham were not at that level, I don't think, at the weekend, but I do think there is that understanding from a lot of people going, it's against Liverpool at Anfield. It was lucky to get a point. They should not be getting a point against West Ham. Gary knows that. It's not coming as a big surprise, but at the end of the day, West Ham should not be drawing against Arsenal. The way West Ham have been playing, as Gary stated previously, there were two goals that perfect play from Arsenal. Don't get me wrong, but what were the West Ham defence doing for them 2 goals? I don't know. I think it shows a lack of complacency. It's a young squad. It's a young manager, not been there before. Pep Guardiola has been there every single time, and I think it's one of them where they're probably getting too overconfident. You saw a lot of the incidences where they weren't controlling the game, they weren't putting their foot on the ball, controlling occasions. And I honestly do think that they gave the opportunity for West Ham to come back into the game. And I do think that, it massively cost them. I didn't think Thomas Partey had a good game at all in midfield. I thought he really was poor, in that. So, I mean, I can only talk, but look at Liverpool. We were cruising to that league title when we won it. And a lot of Liverpool fans were already singing that we won the league. Klopp, the players, everybody said we've not won it yet. Can't, and Manchester City have always adapted that sort of style. That's what Arsenal need to do. It's once again another big 2 points drop there. But very intrigued to see how Arsenal are going to carry on finishing it, to be honest. But last question on that one, Elliot. Obviously, a lot of people saw the discussion between Gary Neville, Jimmy Floyd, Hasselbank, and Roy Keane saying about how if Arsenal get second, and then they would have bottled it. And also, it would be, a very, very poor season. Do you disagree with them comments? I mean, a lot of, as we sort of spoke that, this team is built to win, built to compete for Champions League places. But you're competing for the league. You've been at the top of the league table all season. Do you think it would be do you think Arsenal would have bottled it and it would have been a disgraceful season?
Well, if you look at our start of the season, everyone was predicting that we'd finish fourth. And our aim was to get top four. And we have a 5-year plan that we're 2 or 3 years ahead already. Because 2 or 3 years ahead, and we wanted to be challenging for the title. We're steps ahead. So in a way, you can say it's not a failure. But when you lead the league all season, and you deserve to be there, I see where they're coming from, because you've been up there this whole time, and you can't let it drop at the end.
Well, it'd be the longest time. It'd be the longest time that a team has stayed on top of the Premier League table without securing the Premier League title towards the end of the season. So that's a very, very worrying stat. And I think the last 2 results have clearly proved that they are gifting the opportunity for Man City to close the gap. So big one on obviously on Wednesday midweek. That is a game that we will be covering live as a live watch along. So that's going to be massively tense because that could be the title decider. But speaking of obviously the other team in the title, Gary, 3-1 victory over Leicester. And it was a game where Man City dominated in that first half and massively saw the game through in that one. But I just want to briefly speak about Leicester because they showed some fight the last 15, 20 minutes, getting the goal. There's some really, really good chances. Do you think, Leicester really giving it to Man City was the best sign to Leicester fans, especially with the new manager coming in?
Yeah, I think it was the best sign, obviously. New manager coming in, Dean Smith, I think he's solidified that team and kind of shown that they can fight and they are going to fight to stay up. But is it too late is the question, I think. It could be too late. But at the same time, you could probably necessarily say maybe it's not too late. There is, I think it's 7 games left of the season, maybe 8. And who's to say they can't win their 8 games? I think they've got the easiest running of the lot, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, who's to say they can't do something?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, as you can see there, top of the screen, Leeds United 1, Liverpool 6. A dominant performance from Liverpool in that game. As a Liverpool fan, I'm not going to get too ahead of myself. We're still sitting 8th. We are 2 points behind Brighton. Of course, we've also got a victory there. So, not, going over, 2 ahead of myself, but a fantastic victory for Liverpool against Leeds. But I'm going to focus on Leeds because Leeds are really, really struggling at the moment. Elliot, is it potentially that we could see Leeds go down this season?
Yeah, I mean, they haven't been strong all season. They've been poor consistently. And you can't ship 11 goals in 2 games, especially at home. With form like that, you're causing problems for yourself and you're asking, can we stay up?
Well, the current obviously situation at the moment, as Gary previously stated, I don't believe that West Ham are now in a relegation fight for me personally. But I think the 4 teams that are in and amongst around it, I think Bournemouth are looking pretty solid. I've obviously after picking up that big win against Spurs at the weekend. I think you look at Everton, Leeds, Forest, and Leicester. I think it's between the 4 of them. Southampton are down pretty much. I think so. To me personally, I think it's between them 4 teams, and Leeds are in some serious trouble. Speaking about a team in a lot of trouble, but not in that way. Chelsea losing once again to Brighton. Gary, obviously they're now out of the Champions League after that loss against Real Madrid. It seems like every single game, Chelsea fans are showing a lack of real promise and potential. Just want to briefly speak about something else, though, not about the game, and that is something that is quite sad to sort of say, but we've got to say it. Todd Boehly came into the dressing room at the weekend and started slating a particular new signing. Now, a lot of people have said it was Sterling. On this show, we cannot confirm it was him. A lot of people on social media have said it was him. I don't know how good their sources were. A lot of people saying it potentially might have been a Bamiyang. We don't know. But
I've also heard a few about Mudryk.
Mudryk's name has been thrown around, but nothing has been confirmed. That's what I just want to say, that nothing has been confirmed. We don't have any insider knowledge about it. Despite that happening and slagging off players, owners going into dressing rooms, what are your thoughts on that? And what's your thoughts on Todd Boehly entering the dressing room? Apparently that happens in American football, according to a lot of sources that I've read. If an American football team wins a championship, the owners are the one that lifts the trophy rather than the manager or the captains. So they're more heavily involved in that sport. Is Todd Boehly the right owner? And do you think his actions over the last few weeks with bringing Frank back, predicting that they beat Real Madrid 3-0 at the Bernabeu, going into the dressing room, there seems to be a lot on this chairman? And what's your thoughts? I know that was a massive loaded question. You can sort of decipher it as you please.
I think at the end of the day, I think he's not the right owner for Chelsea. I think, yes, he's got the money where he can put in for the club, but he doesn't understand what it's like to be a football fan. Where you've got, when like Ibrahimovic was there, he understood what it felt like to be a fan in the stands and watch your club. Where Boehly doesn't understand that. And again, I can reference this to kind of Sullivan and Gold, obviously. Rest in peace, David Gold. But I think football is now a sport that's not even a sport anymore. I think it's more of a business. And I don't think people are remembering what it was like where it used to be an actual sport, and it's just confusing.
Yeah, I agree. Any further comments on that?
Look, Boehly does not understand football at all. Not just being a fan, just in general. He is not a football guy. So he's trusting everyone else. He's throwing money out, and he has no clue what he's doing. And you can't be a good owner if you don't know what you're doing.
Do you know what? I generally do think that I'm not trying to come to his aid. I'm trying to look at it from a different point of view and different perspective. For me personally, you don't have to be a football fan. And this is the harsh reality of the way football is approached. But you don't have to be a football fan to own a football club. It is what it is.
You've got to know what's going on and You have some kind of idea where this guy's clueless.
I think if you have the right advisors, the moment Chelsea have the right advisors to him, and I think his approach and his business approach in other businesses might work. It doesn't work like that. At the end of the day, you've got to have the right advisors beside you. I don't think he has them at Chelsea. I don't like the way that Chelsea's ran, and I'm saying this quite freely because I don't think a lot of people from Chelsea will listen to this show. Chelsea are not ran well as a club. I think they were better under Abramovich, but at the moment Chelsea are not ran like a good club. Manchester United are slated for it. I don't think Manchester United are that bad, but I think Chelsea's the worst because you see a lot of the teams. Obviously, our three teams share the sort of same values. Is that if you don't have a good squad, or if you have players that are weaker, in that case, you've got to build them up. Henderson, slated. He's the Liverpool captain. He's built up to be a player and fit in within the system. But then you have stars like Salah, Van Dijk, Alisson, where obviously Mane now he's left. Thiago, who are really quality players. West Ham have got players like Rice, Bowen, and players that are the superstars. Chelsea have loads of really high-profile players, but they've not got that solid leader. You look around that squad, Thiago Silva, quality, what a legend. But at the end of the day, he came to the Premier League too late, and he doesn't play enough games. Apart from Thiago Silva, who else in that squad would you consider to be a leader? Sterling, potentially. I can't see anybody. I don't think Mount is. I think Kante's too quiet, and he's not played enough this season. I don't think Chilwell or James really possess that sort of quality thing. But I think the opportunity is if things are not going well, they spend. That's it. You saw with the financial fair play under Lampard, he had to deal with that squad without any investment, and he did really well. As soon as that was lifted, they went out and brought Havertz, they brought Werner, they brought Ziyech, a lot of players that are, either not at the club anymore or not in favour with the club at the moment, not favourite picks. So I think Chelsea's ran so poorly, and I think Todd Bowley's approach to it is very business-like, business sake. That's fine, but I understand. I totally understand that. I think looking at the way that other clubs are ran, you don't go in the dressing room. You don't go in the dressing room. The owners should not be allowed in there to slate Sterling, top professional, Mudryk, who is a young prospect. I know a lot of people have different opinions on him, but he's considered to be a young prospect. Whether it was Aubameyang, who has done it in multiple leagues, them together have more knowledge about football than Todd Bowley ever will. So I think it's a bit, very, very disrespectful. But I'm obviously sorry to turn that sort of question onto a business end of Chelsea rather than the result. It was a poor game once again against Brighton, but it was just one of them interesting conversations. So we are going to quickly move in to the fixtures for this weekend's games. We will have a live show before the midweek games that we're going to do the predictions then. So I'll quickly run through these once again. Thank you very much to Sky Sports for providing us with the graphic. Also as well, if you guys would like to bet on the games, there's the betting statistics there on screen. Of course, that can change. It is all correct as of the 20th of April and the time of this live stream. So let's start off with Friday game. It's been a while since we've had a Friday game, which sees league leaders Arsenal take on bottom of the league Southampton. Elliot, score prediction for your team, mate?
I'm going to go 3-0. 3-0 Arsenal.
Okay, the early kickoff on Saturday sees Fulham take on Leeds United. Leeds United, of course, Gary conceding goals in so many ways, in so many different ways at the moment. What are we saying for this game?
3-0 Fulham.
It's going to be a big game between Brentford and Aston Villa. I'm looking forward to that one. Ollie Watkins in fine form. Unai Emery doing a fantastic job. The club now sits 6th. Will that be another victory for Unai Emery's team? Elliot, what's your prediction?
Yeah, obviously because Villa are high flying at the minute. I'd have to go 2-1 Villa.
Okay, well, another team in form, Crystal Palace, Gary, taking on struggling Everton. Everton are not showing signs of a victory at all at the moment. Could they get one against Palace? What are your prediction?
2-0 Palace.
Dean Smith's first home game in charge of Leicester will see them take on Wolves, who seems to be trying to, on the brink of a relegation battle. I don't think they're going to be there. Elliot, what's your prediction?
I'm going to say 1-0 Wolves.
Okay. And obviously, Liverpool, coming off of that 6-1 victory against Leeds, will travel to Nottingham Forest, who are without a win in 10. Gary, what's your prediction for that one?
4-0 Liverpool.
Oh, big scores, big scores. Obviously, as you can see, Manchester United and Chelsea is again postponed due to the FA Cup semi-finals. So we will move ahead. Gary, we'll stick with you this one as this is your club. As West Ham take on struggling Bournemouth, a big 6-pointer in many, many ways. Only in your mind, to be honest with you. What are you saying for this one?
2-1 West Ham.
Okay, then Elliot, just to conclude, then Tottenham Hotspurs will take on Newcastle, a big game with ramifications for the top 4. What are we saying?
I'm going to say 2-1 Newcastle.
Okay, and as you can see, Brighton, Hove Albion and Manchester City is also postponed due to the FA Cup semi-finals. So obviously we'll get into the predictions for the midweek games on next week's show. So let's move on then to our news topics, because of course we always try and look at stuff away from the pitch, and this is going to be 2 separate images that's not going to ever lead together, because Jude Bellingham has come out now and has ruled out the possibility of moving to Liverpool. Liverpool currently sitting 8th and does not look like they're going to be securing Champions League football as well, especially with the fact that they're not even in the competition again this season. So Jude Bellingham ruling out the possibility of Liverpool. It was always stated that he showed interest in the club, but now has officially come out and said it. Gary, what are your early thoughts on this one?
I think it's because Liverpool are doing so poorly this season. I think if they had Champions League football, it might have turned his head a little bit more. But obviously, the showing of poor results and, obviously them being an 8th and as it stands in the Premier League, I think he's looking at that and going, I could go somewhere else and finish higher. I could go somewhere else and play with better players.
Ellie, I know obviously you're very, hoping that he will join Arsenal, of course. But is a Premier League move on the cards regardless? Is he potentially looking at Manchester United, Man City, or is a move, to a team like Real Madrid, potentially be on the cards? Do you think he should be playing in the Premier League and will do?
Look, I think the only Premier League clubs that can attract Bellingham at this current time are Arsenal and City. They're
not Man U.
No.
I think Man U. But go on, carry on.
Can't see Bellingham going Man United. But anyway, they're miles ahead of everyone else. He deserves to play for one of the best teams in the league. But teams like Liverpool, I don't think they're good enough for him at the minute, because he could walk into any team in the world. And a player of that quality wants to be playing Champions League at the highest quality.
Absolutely. I think there was a stat that came out saying that Bellingham will be in his early 20s in 2 World Cup time. That's absolutely crazy. Gary, a comment on where you think Bellingham will end up next season, particularly obviously sort of focusing more on the Premier League teams.
I know you said to focus more on Premier League teams, but I think it's got to be Madrid. You
think it's Madrid?
I think his head's going to be turned. Like, come on, they're going to win the Champions League. Imagine he's going to walk straight into that Madrid squad and just boss it.
I think Arsenal and Madrid are the 2 teams that need him the most. I don't see. I mean, obviously the Haaland link will be probably attract Bellingham to Man City, and of course, obviously we'll regardless to see, but even if Arsenal finish second, I still see the attractability from there. Real Madrid's an interesting one because I think Real Madrid, particularly in that midfield with Kroos and Modric, you've got Bellingham for some time, at that club and playing real top quality football like he is at the moment with Borussia Dortmund. I could honestly see him going. I agree with Gary with Real Madrid, and that's the only club he could potentially go to away from the Premier League. I think Manchester City, there's a more attractability than Arsenal, even if Arsenal win the league, personally, because obviously Man City is still cruising for the Champions League. So are you saying that Real Madrid will win the Champions League, guys?
Yeah. Because, no offense,
Wow.
it's not really much of a challenge except Man City.
That game decides who wins it.
Yeah.
That game
it will decide who wins it. I think as well, obviously, you've got AC Milan versus Inter Milan, and that's just going to be whoever wins that is going to be sacrificed at the final, I think.
Last question then directed to Elliot. Obviously, transfers are incredibly crazy right now at the moment. Obviously, people put on, predictions and transfer market value. In your personal opinion, obviously, all sort of things that you've read regarding this, how much would Bellingham go for? Let's say if he went to Manchester City, Arsenal, Real Madrid. We spoke about them teams that might be where Bellingham ends up. Where do you think? How much do you think Bellingham will go for with them three clubs?
Well, Dortmund are looking at around 130 million for him, I saw. So I'd agree, but 130, 150, because he's still really young, one of the best midfielders in the world. And he's only going to get better, isn't he?
Absolutely, especially with the clubs that are looking out for him. Gary, I've just got one more final question regarding Bellingham, just and this the topic of conversation just come into my head there. Obviously, Bellingham was Liverpool's top transfer look. Now that Bellingham has ruled out a possible move to Anfield, which midfielders should be priority number one for Jurgen Klopp's midfield? Because at the end, I've always said it. Ever since I've known you, for the 4 years, I've always said midfield is the weakest area. We need to rebuild. A lot of people are saying that Liverpool need to rebuild in other positions, but just focusing on midfield, who do you think the number one prospect is for at the moment for Liverpool?
I know, obviously, that this player will probably move somewhere else and stay within the London borough. But I think it's got to be Declan Rice. I think he will massively boost that holding midfielder role for Liverpool, which will allow the more likes of Thiago to push more forward and create more of an attack. And obviously, he can build on attacks. He can play. Obviously, he proves it for England. He proves it for West Ham. He can always play that killer ball through, and someone will find it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love Declan Rice to come. Not only is he a fantastic player, I think he massively fits within the spirit of the dressing room, and I think he's a great player. To be honest, I think we need to go a little bit more attacking than Rice. I'd love if Rice would come, and I do think we need a few midfielders. I'm going to go with McAllister from Brighton. I've always said that Liverpool need an attacking midfielder. Obviously had a fantastic World Cup where he really did shine. A lot of people said it was the Messi show, but I think he definitely contributed to Argentina's World Cup victory. He's been playing fantastic in the Prem, and Brighton do fantastic business. They are a club that buys cheap, sells big, like Leicester have done. In previous seasons since they won the league. So I'm going to say McAllister. So let's get into the second and last topic of conversation regarding the news. And this is something that Gary, I'm sure, has a lot of opinion on. We are going to speak to Elliot first, but just a little bit of backstory that betting websites and formats has now been banned to use on official shirt sponsors. That sees teams like Burnley, Watford, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, and Leeds, amongst others. But of course, for the sake of the graphic, they were there in front of me, so I use them as examples. But obviously now that has been banned, now the clubs are going to have to look for other shirt sponsors, which I'm sure for teams is not a particularly difficult thing, but of course it does, change massive sort of ramifications in terms of people's businesses. Elliot, sort of a brief sort of opinion on what you think of regarding this and any opinions you may have.
I think it's the right thing to ban it because it's promoting betting to the younger generation, the younger people, which when they turn 18 or old enough to do betting, then it'll make them want to do it more and get more involved. And obviously, as Gary knows, you lose money. And like you don't want to get people into the habit of betting and losing a lot of money and so on. Sorry, Gary, I had to put that in there.
50p, mate, he's 50p richer, honestly.
No, bear in mind.
Cheers were brilliant.
I've lost out on 2 bets. The first 2 bets I placed, I lost out, and I put Arsenal to win 3-0 against Leeds. They were 3-0 up and then Leeds scored, which I would have got 40 quid back for.
He messaged me. I was at work when that happened, and I was finished serving somebody, and then I dropped my phone went off, and it was Gary messaging me and went, "It's now 3-1." And I looked at football, but it said 3-1, and I was like, "Oh great! Like he's not happy now." But Gary, sort of thoughts, man. I know you've got particularly. I mean, I didn't even mention your team, West Ham. You should have stood up, and it would have helped. But sort of, what do you personally think about it? I know you have some strong opinions. You're happy to share, and I'll mute my mic so you can have the full potential of it. And I would advise to do the same, mate. This could go on for a while.
It's not going to go on for that long. Don't worry. I think at the end of the day, I agree with Elliot. I think it is promoting it to the younger generation. But then at the same time, obviously they're going to look up to their favourite players. And the likes of Derby County, I think, as well as sponsored by a betting company, aren't they, as well?
Yeah.
And obviously people, like young kids, are going to watch Derby County and go, that's my favourite player, and see him in the kit, and all you see across the shirt is a betting sponsor. Again, Declan Rice. Young kids are going to look up to him.
Just a challenge. Do you think fans are really particularly like interested in like shirt sponsors though? I don't know. I don't see a lot of kids just looking at it going, "That's what I focus on a shirt."
No, I get. I'm not saying that they focus on it, but what I'm saying is, obviously, the likes. If you're looking up to the likes of Declan Rice and you see him in a West Ham kit, and you look at the kit and you see Betway, you're going to think of that. Like, obviously, when I look at a West Ham shirt, all I see mainly is Betway because it's in big white, black, whatever colour letters it is. I think.
But if you have a look at, like, let's say I'm just trying to provide an example here, here on the screen. Like, a lot of the sponsors are bigger than the actual badges. But the badges hold more weight than a betting sponsor. The sponsors, I think it's one of them where you see a lot of production shows being sponsored, by a betting site, Bet365, Sky Bet, all of it's massively sponsored. Is that a culture where you just pick it on one particular thing? Because this is going to affect their businesses. This is not a football business show, but I think it's going to impact their businesses where ultimately other businesses are thriving off something else.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah, I get that. Like, obviously, Scope Market, for instance, on our sleeve, which is obviously on the patch. I think Liverpool, can't remember what Liverpool's is on the sleeve.
I'm trying to think now. It's an airline sort of thing.
And obviously Elliot with Arsenal and Visit Rwanda, is it?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah.
So they're all obviously going to benefit from this. Obviously, Scope Market is trading, and then obviously Visit Rwanda and Liverpool's one are both airlines. So they're going to benefit from being on the shirt. Where Betway, for instance, again, stake.com, Hollywood Bets are all going to lose customers. But at the same time, will they? Because it is until the 25-26 season, isn't it? Till the end of that season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they might even still have customers at the end of that.
That's another thing I don't understand. I don't understand it because honestly, generally, I think, you said that at the end of the 25-26 season, that's when they've got to change. Like, is that right? Is that how they've worded it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous because at the end of the day, you're still advertising it for another 2 seasons. Like, I mean, that probably honestly gives them time to find a new sponsor and stuff like that and go through that. I understand, but a lot of football owners, I'm not a football owner. I don't know any football owners, but I don't think that's going to be at the top of their priority list to look for another sponsor. I think honestly, it's really great when sometimes clubs have a new sponsors, but I don't think they really look into it that much. I think the most difficult thing is if you see this show that's been sponsored by it, so their money and investments going into that show. So Sky Sports have sponsors. They don't need sponsors. They have enough money to sponsor their own shows, and it's one of them where I feel like the businesses are profiting more than football clubs and football shows and stuff like that. I think if you're going to take it away from football shirts, you should take it away from things altogether. It's got to be the same line, and consistently. There's no case study to say this is what happens when you do it. I don't know where this has particularly come from. It's sort of a general statement. To me personally, I think you've got to look at other forms of attractability. And, a lot of people say, that's wrong. Well, why is it wrong? Provide an example, provide reasonings and case studies. I don't understand why personally you look at certain sponsors and, it gives an ultimately sort of negative message because, I know we've just joked with Gary, but if Gary put a note, I mean, well, where did you put your bet on? What company did you use?
Sky Bet.
Sky Bet. So if your team is like, let's say you did it on Betway, who is now the sponsor of your shirt, and you won massive amounts of money, would you bother? So I don't know. I think it's that grey area which you operate. Elliot, final comments on you, mate, if you have any.
No, I don't think I have any.
Gary, any closing thoughts then?
I just think at the end of the day, I think it should have been banned straight away. That's my personal opinion, because if you're a big football club, you should already have a lot of sponsors already. I think West Ham are sponsored by like Monster, obviously Scope Market. Why can't we put one of them on the front of the sleeve, in front of the shirt?
Yeah.
Instead of having it being a betting company.
Why keep them involved, or just get rid of them?
No, like keep them involved, yeah. But
Fair
I think
enough.
get rid of them off the front of the shirt.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting argument. Yeah, a lot of people would agree with your assessment of that. So, that rounds off our news stories. Now we are going to be getting in to the race for the title. This is an updated graphic. Thank you very much for Sky Sports again. They provide some fantastic graphics, and we're going to utilize them. There you see Arsenal comfortable. In a lot of people's words, at the top, 4 points above Manchester City. Manchester City with a game in hand. That game will be against Brighton, of course, because they're missing this one this week. Man City with a 7+ goal difference, and Arsenal have to play Southampton before Manchester City, of course, have played against Bayern Munich, and then Sheffield United before they play Manchester City. Before they play Arsenal. So, not an easy run in. Obviously, we spoke about this last week, so this is going to be a pretty short segment. But Elliot, sort of looking at that list, and obviously Arsenal's motivation, particularly with that game against Southampton, again at home, against the bottom of the league. Do you honestly think that Arsenal will definitely get that sort of 7-point lead back on?
Yeah, I think we'd have learned from our mistakes, and I think we'll comfortably beat Southampton. And just got to keep restoring the lead. Got to try and pull away.
Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank said that Man City and Newcastle are the games for Arsenal. If they get anything from them 2 games, they will win this league. Do you agree with Mr. Hasselbank's comments? That's not easy to say.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, me and most people think that it's going to go down to that game on the 26th against Man City. I think if we get something from that game, I reckon we'll win the league. But like I said, it comes down to that game. That's the big one.
Oh yeah, massively. And looking at Man City's run of fixtures, obviously they've got a little bit more personal momentum than Arsenal. Obviously, they've been there before. They've been in this position before. Obviously, last time they were second in a title race, which was obviously against Liverpool, and Liverpool were very dominant that season, and Man City definitely did pull away from it. But obviously, looking at Man City's fixtures, this Arsenal, of course, is a big game. Could you see any other games where Manchester City could potentially drop points? I mean, it's important, for Man City to win every game, of course, and they've got that game in hand. Any other concerning games for Man City?
I reckon Brighton would give them a good game, whenever that may be.
Yeah, I agree.
Brighton, if they're on it that day, Man City will find it hard to beat them.
But you've got to play Brighton as well. I mean, is that a concerning game for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, Brighton's always a hard team to play against, isn't it?
Yeah,
they're always a very good, solid side. But yeah, Brentford, they've done it before. Done it last season. I hope they could do it again, though. And yeah, I don't see anyone else taking points off of City, to be honest.
Yeah, the placement of that game is crazy. Gary, any sort of thoughts on Man City? And obviously, I mean, looking at that, personally, I do think they'll win every single one of them games. And Arsenal really being the only challenge for me, personally.
I mean, yeah, Arsenal are obviously really the only challenge for Man City. And let's say Arsenal do lose to Southampton, a very unlikely opportunity to happen, but it could. We could say West Ham have handed Man City the title. I think that draw was the vital thing for Man City to catch Arsenal.
Not the Liverpool game.
No, I think the West Ham one was the most vital because I think
it's more underdogs. Do you think they're more underdogs than Liverpool?
Yeah, I think West Ham were obviously more underdogs because of our position in the Premier League, and I think Liverpool obviously is Liverpool. Like, it's a big club, and you have you don't have a different perspective because obviously, no offense to you, Kieran, here, but you're used to seeing Liverpool being in that top 6, maybe 7.
For some seasons, yes. For my young adult life, yes.
Where
childhood, not so much.
We're obviously for the past 2-3 seasons, that's where I've seen West Ham.
Yeah.
And it's dropped off, and obviously we're back down to that old West Ham where we were in the relegation fight, and we've always had that scrap. And obviously that's come back. We were the underdogs. We drew to them, and I just think that was the vital one because I think it would have been 6 points clear. And going into Southampton's game, which, again, like Elliot said, should be an easy win, I think that's going to create a bigger gap, yes, because it'll be 7 points. And again, Man City, Arsenal will be the deciding game.
I honestly don't think that people should sleep so much on Chelsea, and that might be a really unpopular opinion, but to me personally, if Chelsea picked up something against either one of these sides, particularly City, because Chelsea have always seemed to be beating City, whether it's in the Champions League final, whether it was the season that gave Liverpool the league. Chelsea have always played really well against Manchester City. So even if Chelsea takes some sort of points against either one of these teams, I wouldn't be surprised. I was more surprised that West Ham picked up points against Arsenal, last weekend. I'd be more surprised if with that than Chelsea picking up something. I think Chelsea, people are sleeping on it due to their placement, but if Chelsea turn up, I think it might be difficult. Obviously, you both have them in your list against at home about sort of 3-4 weeks apart. So it'll be interesting, very interesting. So obviously that is going to be a continuous thing we're going to be talking about. Obviously, probably the segments will get shorter and shorter, but it's one of them where a title running is always very exciting. Elliot, of course, every week is a little bit of nerves at the moment, so we're going to talk about it a little bit more just to get him a little bit more nervous. That's the plan at the moment.
Thanks for that.
So no worries, mate. So let's move in then to our final segment of the day, which is going to be bracket fights. So this is really exciting. I'm really looking forward to doing this. So what we're going to be doing as this is being loaded up for us to sort out, the plan is that each week we're going to be doing an alternating thing. We're going to have our tier list, and also we're going to have our bracket fights, different topics of conversation each week. Last week, of course, we spoke on the table prediction, of course, for the rest of the season, where we think. And this one, as you can see from the title here, is the best Premier League forwards. So this is not limited to strikers. This is just for forward players. A lot of people, I'm guessing, will be predicting who we think is going to be who's going to be our winner. But it's going to be very interesting to see exactly where certain other players get picked. So that's going to be quite exciting. So if we get into this one then, so if we use the matchup mode, Gaz, that'd be greatly appreciated just to make a bit more of a bod. There we go. And we're just basing this on this current season. So whatever these players have done in the past, we are not going to be talking about that. It's just going to be purely about this season. And an interesting one here is we've up here. Chris Wood of Nottingham Forest, of course, played for Newcastle, went to Nottingham Forest as part of their transfer mayhem. Coming up against Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, of course, former Arsenal captain, now currently playing for Chelsea whenever he decides he wants to play. So what will happen is if Gary and Elliot can't agree, then I will make the final verdict based on my opinion and also arguments as well. So Gary, we're going to start off with you, mate. Who is your vote going for? And if you want to provide a reason, you can.
Chris Wood, because we really haven't seen Aubameyang this season.
And Elliot?
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say. Chris Wood.
Okay, I agree. I agree with Chris Wood. I think, purely because Aubameyang's not really done anything. So, interesting. But the battle of the Crystal Palace players here, Wilfried Zaha versus Edouard. Two really good players playing in some really, really good teams. Obviously, Zaha's got a little bit more experience. A lot of people said that obviously he carries Crystal Palace for majority of the time. We're going to start with Elliot with this one. Who are we saying? But Edouard's been in fine form.
For me, it's got to be Zaha this season. Again, he's shown why he's Crystal Palace's main man. And yeah, I just think he's been very good this year.
Gary? Just feel free to go on, mate. Don't need to.
I'd have to go Edouard. I think he's been on brilliant form, and I think he is that goal-scoring machine that Crystal Palace have got at the moment.
Personal preference, I would say Edouard. Zaha's a good player, and I think he's had some good, bright moments, but Edouard has just really shocked me. His sheer strength and his size and his ability to control games and really pick up vital victories for Palace. I'm going to say Edouard for me. So, big one there. So now we move into the battle of Liverpool between Luis Diaz and Diego Jota, both struggling with injuries. Two players that are part of a alumni of Liverpool attacking players. Gary, will start with you again. Elliot, feel free to chip in with your argument straight after Gary's finished talking, and we'll continue like that for the rest of this this fight. Gary, what are we saying?
I think it's got to be Luis Diaz because we really haven't seen much of Jota this season.
Yeah, exactly the same from me. I'd go Diaz.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with that. Yeah. I'm not going to vote, but I just wanted to agree because it was my club. This one seems to be the most easiest bracket of them all. Harvey Barnes, of course, playing for struggling Leicester, takes on Jesus. And Gary moving the cursor over there quite confidently over to Gabriel Jesus. I feel like we've got Gary's opinion, so we're going to move over to Elliot's opinion, which will just be one word, I believe.
It's got to be Gabriel Jesus, isn't it? He's just
Gary not even talking, by the way. This one there. Come on, Gary. We've got to make sure that we get the longest stream possible. So this one's going to be interesting. Danny Ings versus Almiron. I'm a big fan of Danny Ings. I'm not going to lie. Of course, moved to the claret and blue team in the Premier League, but coming up against a man in fine form alongside a lot of players in Newcastle, Miguel Almiron. Elliot, we'll start with you first. This one, mate.
For me, easy choice. Almiron. He's been on fire this year.
Gary?
I don't want to say it, but yeah, Almiron.
Yeah, it's been quality. Okay, so I mean, this one's going to be very
easy as well.
I know. I was going to sort of say, like, how difficult is this going to be? Danny Welbeck versus Harry Kane. Gary, over to you first.
It's got to be Harry Kane.
Yeah, I would agree, Elliot.
I mean, before the stream, I did say Danny Welbeck better be on it.
He's on it.
But nah, it's got to be Kane, innit? I don't want to say it.
He's not going to be on it for very long.
Yeah, it's got to be Kane.
Comfortably there. Adama Traore versus Ivan Toney. Two very different players, of course. Elliot, what we saying for this one?
Another easy one. Ivan Toney. He's been on fire this year as well, scoring all the goals just before he gets banned.
Absolutely. He's got to enjoy his football while he can. Gary, you in agreement with that?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
Okay, Ivan Toney moving into the next round. So, I mean, this one is going to, I'm just going to sort of sit back and let you two argue. This is going to be an interesting one.
I've got to say Haaland.
Oh, really? That's surprising.
Why would you put Martinelli against Haaland, man?
It's a random bracket. Calm down. I thought that
we haven't chose this, by the way.
Yeah, we haven't.
These are random.
These are random.
Yeah, it's got to be Haaland, isn't it? Unfortunately.
Okay, let's move on then. This one's another easy one. Elliot?
For me, it's Wilfried Gnonto.
Really?
Yeah. I think he's been the bright part of Leeds' season. And this season, I think he's had a breakout, and I think he's just been very good in a very poor side.
Gary?
Do you know what? I'd have to go Alvarez.
Yeah. Judging by my reaction to Elliot's answer, I'm going to go with Alvarez. He's too good to just be second choice, though. I know Haaland is quality, but he is too good. He is too good. And finally, we might have some form of Arsenal player on this tier list. Trossard versus Rodrigo. I like Rodrigo as a player, and I do think if Leeds go down, a lot of teams are going to be looking at him as potential targets. But Gary, who are we saying for this one? Leeds versus Arsenal with their players.
Arsenal, which means obviously Trossard. Yep.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for that. Elliot?
Yeah, it's got to be Trossard for me. Since he's come to Arsenal, he's been crucial in our play and got those assists, hasn't he?
I love the fact that Gary's just laughing because it's just it's not even necessary to ask Elliot when Arsenal players are involved. This was an interesting one. Kulusevski versus Mitoma. I'm a big fan of Mitoma. I'm
a big fan of Kulusevski, to be truthfully honest.
Are you now? And why?
Yes.
Just why?
I think he's quality.
Yeah, Mitoma's good as well though.
Yeah, I see your point, but I know it's Spurs, and obviously me and Elliot's supposed to hate Spurs, but I think Kuleveski is lit up that Tottenham attack.
Yeah. Elliot, so are you saying Kuleveski then? Gary, just for confirmation, you're saying Kuleveski, yeah?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Elliot.
I'm going Mitoma. He's been very good this season.
Have you already done it, or have you? No. Okay, here we go. It's back. Yeah, I'm gonna say Mitoma. Kuleveski's good, but I just don't think he's that good. Oh, that's a good one. Liverpool versus Leicester gets in there. Cody Gakpo versus Jamie Vardy. Look, I've already got one Liverpool player in this tier list, and the only reason why that's because they were both Liverpool players. So, Elliot, we'll go to you first for this one, mate.
I'm going to go Gakpo.
Good lad. Gary?
Yeah, that's a good Gakpo as well.
Yeah. Vardy's a legend. If we were judging this on career, Vardy gets in easily. Oh. This is like Man City, Arsenal, but it'll all be like an England like bracket fight. This is going to be. Gary will. Is there Saka? Grealish has been on fire this season, though.
Yeah, but it's only for the last 3-4 games.
Yeah, I like Saka
been
more
on
as a
fire
player.
all the way through his season.
He's so versatile as well. Elliot,
Easy
go on,
choice,
give it
Saka.
to us. There we go, Gary. Was that a surprise? Seriously, if we do not go for this one player, I'll
Watkins.
be very disappointed. Gary doesn't even let me just finish talking. Like Gary's in a rush. Gary wants to go. Gary, do you want to do this bracket on your own, mate?
Well, I mean, if you want me to, then I don't mind.
Anyway, mate, we can go, mate. We've got stuff to do. Yeah, Raheem Sterling versus Ollie Watkins. Gary's already casted his vote. Elliot, are you in agreement?
Watkins for me.
Yeah, what a player at the moment. Battle of Brazil. With Brazil representation in this bracket. Anthony versus Richarlison. I don't know. I'm just gonna. I don't even know why I'm getting involved. I only talk when there's a draw. But here we go. Elliot,
I'm
start
going-
off. No,
Battle of
Elliot
the flops.
first. Stop rushing. Go on then.
Battle of the flops. Both of them have not been good this year, but Anthony's been slightly better than Richarlison because Richarlison hasn't scored all season.
Gary, you may now talk.
I'm in full agreement with Anthony.
Okay, very nice. Riyad Mahrez versus Jadon Sancho. Gary, you can go first this time.
It's got to be Mahrez.
Yeah.
Very nice, very nice. We've still not got out of the first round. Now we have with Chris Wood and Edward.
Edward.
Edouard.
Yeah. Very nice. This is going to be.
Can we just fly through them?
We can fly through them. If you.
Jesus.
So,
Yeah, I'd say Jesus as well.
yep. I'm just gonna sit back, and if you don't agree, then I'll chime in.
Kane.
Off we go, lads.
Kane.
Haaland.
Thank God.
Trossard.
Oh. Alvarez.
Oh, I'm here. Alvarez today. Because Trossard comes on. I think Alvarez has more significance off the bench.
Gakpo.
Mitoma.
I'm back again. Mitoma, I think because I think Gakpo is slightly now coming into his own, so I'll say Mitoma.
Saka.
Yeah.
What? Okay, all right, okay.
But yeah,
Mahrez.
you can't say that. Mahrez. Jesus.
Are we doing one? Are we doing one side?
Haaland.
Bro, it's the way it's just come up with me. I haven't
Yeah,
chosen this
no.
way.
Just
but
making
yeah,
sure.
Haaland.
Okay, so I think we're doing one side of the bracket, and then we're going on to the other side, I believe.
Mitoma.
Yep. Mahrez.
Kieran.
Oh right, okay. I was waiting for you to say the name.
Kieran just sits up in his chair. Oh, I've been called upon.
I'm chillaxing, mate. I'm trying to. Saka.
Good lad.
Only just though. Only just.
Oh,
Ooh.
Haaland.
Haaland.
Saka.
Saka.
Haaland.
Haaland.
So we can confirm now that Haaland is in the final. So one bracket's been
Yes.
completed. We're now going to move over to the other bracket.
Oh,
Let's see who's going to join Haaland in the final.
I'd say Che Adams.
Yeah, they've both been terrible, but Shea Adams.
Firmino.
Kieran.
Kieran, you've been called upon again.
Are you going with João Felix? You said it so quick. I think you said it at the same time.
I'm going Felix.
Audio here.
I am Firmino.
This is hard because Firmino's not really played a lot, but Felix has been poor. And I think the prospect that they say, I think you've got to consider him a flop. And I don't think Firmino will ever be considered a flop, even though he has bad seasons. I'm going to say Firmino.
And you know we're all actually pronouncing João Felix's name wrong. It's Felix.
Are we now?
Yeah, it's
That's the
João
first time
Felix, isn't it?
That's the first time that Gary will ever talk about pronunciation.
Rashford.
Go on, then continue. Let me go back in my hole.
Mitrovic.
Yeah, Mitrovic. Just.
We're not putting Isak in. I'm surprised by that.
Saint Maximan.
Yeah.
It's got to be Foden, yeah.
Can I just say, Jack Harrison, good player.
Nunes.
Thank you, Gary, for reacting to my comment there. Very nice.
Oh, I'd say Son. Kieran.
Egyptian King.
No, El Neni's not on the list, mate.
Would you stop talking about El Neni?
That's because Kieran's a Liverpool fan, by the way.
You love it. Dino.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. Rashford. Phil Foden. Salah. Rashford. Salah.
Getting through it's a lot quicker than the last one. Rashford.
Because I've stopped talking.
Haaland.
This is the final, boys.
Are we? Who? Wait, who?
This is the final one.
Okay.
Erling.
Yeah, but Rashford's come from the depths.
But Haaland's about to break the record.
Yeah, but Haaland's a robot. Haaland is a robot.
Just to provide you with a stat here, gentlemen, just while I potentially might support arguments, Rashford this season, at the time of recording, has scored 15 goals. Haaland has scored 32. Haaland has scored double the amount of Rashford goals. But also, on the flip side, Rashford has not scored a penalty. Haaland has scored 6.
I mean, yeah, but 6 penalties. That's still added as a part of the goal tally. You know, there's your winner.
Oh, that was quick. Right, that would now be known as Gary Best segment. because Gary was very much in control of all of that. But
Record
there
it
you
every
see-
week. How fast you can do it.
Yeah. I'll set a timer. But there you see, I think a lot of people would probably have predicted that. But guys, if you want to go over to bracket fights, we'll also put the link in the description. Actually, if we put the description in the live, the description at the end of this, and you guys can do your own bracket, or if you just want to put in your clear winner, or if you want to agree or disagree with any of these choices, then the link will be in the live description at the end of this, but then also in the description of the clip as well that we're going to be uploading towards the end of the week. And that concludes the Footy Fan Zone for this week. Many thank you to the best co-hosts I can find, Gary Best and Elliot Davis Trundle. Massive thank you to you both for joining. Like, subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for all the fantastic support. We're going to be doing a lot more live streams, full match thoughts when me and Elliot do take our trips to Lincoln. So looking forward to talking about sort of them games. Massive thanks as well to people that have shared this. I think we've had a few on social media that I've seen. So massive thank you to you guys for sharing it as well. And we will see you next week for the weekly live stream wrap up of the Footy Fan Zone. See you in a bit.